Hello, I'm Sue Newham from PAVO.
And I'm Jenny Hall.
And Jenny, you've been doing some research for PAVO recently, haven't you?
I have. I've been looking at services that are available to people living with dementia in the county of Powys.
And how did you start your research?
I started off by looking at services that are specifically aimed at people living with dementia, but very quickly realised that there was a broader picture, that we should be looking at activities that would be inclusive of people living with dementia, that perhaps were the things that they used to do before their diagnosis and would like to continue to do, or perhaps even new activities that they would like to take part in.
And you looked at services but also activities.
Services and activities.
And
yes.
the services, a lot of them were sort of clustered around the dementia-friendly communities?
Yes, those services that are specifically aimed at people living with dementia, and they were far outnumbered by the more general ones, but those activities, those services even, were based around the dementia-friendly communities. I think there are 8 or 9 of them in the county, and the map showed very clearly that that's where they were located.
But that wasn't the whole story, was it?
It was not, no. I felt the much more interesting part of the story was these other activities that would be willing to include people living with dementia.
And you contacted a lot of these groups, didn't you, sort of activity groups, and what was their response?
Their response was, actually, we hadn't thought of that before, but yes, I see no reason why not. Some obviously said they had to speak to their committee, went the more formally structured groups, but quite a lot of them are very small, very grassroots initiative who immediately said, yes, of course, we would welcome people living with dementia. In fact, quite a few of them said, we actually have had dementia friends training and we would be very happy to be inclusive.
So do you think, did you get the impression that these services and activities are sustainable?
Well, that was a question that I directly asked. And again, these small grassroots initiatives, almost 100% said, yes, we are self-funding, we are self-sustaining, we are a small, on the whole, community group, and we look after ourselves, we produce our own funding.
So what happens to the information now?
Well, obviously I've written a report, I've passed it to PAVO, and they are going to be looking, I think possibly through the Community Connectors team, but perhaps more generally, at identifying more of these activities in all of the areas in Powys.
And all, the Community Connectors will all have access to your information and will hopefully be building on it. So if people need a bit of help to access some of these activities, they could ask their community connector in their area?
Oh, very much so.
Yes.
At the moment, I think we've identified over 150 activities, but I'm sure there are many, many more out there.
I'm sure there are, yes. So do you get the impression that your project is actually finished?
No. I think that certainly that discrete piece of work is completed. I've identified the services that are on activities that are available. I've identified a gap, which is transport, which I think is, in this context, we're talking about dementia aware transport, but I think generally there is an issue across the county with community transport, so I don't think that comes as any surprise to anybody. It is important for people living with dementia to not be put in a box, to be able to access the services, the activities that they would like to do, that it has a positive effect on their health and well-being.
Jenny has found out so much about activities and services that can be accessed by people living with dementia in Powys, and all these will be added to our Wales-wide online directory of services and clubs called Info Engine. If you haven't seen it before, it's a really great tool. You can search by keyword and you can find it at en.infoengine.cymru.